You may have known that a hamlet is a small settlement, but did you know what distinguishes it from a village in the British settlement hierarchy is that it specifically does not have a church? Now you do, and you're going to rectify that problem in Hamlet, the village building game. Welcome to Table Talk Reviews. I'm Matt Mitchell. Hamlet is a board game for 1 to 4 players designed by David Cherkop, where players are going to be producing and refining resources, building buildings and roads, and ultimately attempting to complete the construction of the church and turn our hamlet into a village. Hamlet was provided to me by the publisher, Mighty Boards. Let's take a look at how it plays, and then I'll share my thoughts. To set up the game, give all players a set of components in their color. We have roads for building bridges and paths. We have refined goods, which are double-sided. The black side is the regular version. The white side is the high-quality refined good. We have 4 villagers, which are your workers. We have additional tokens for tracking deliveries and points, flags to track which landmark tiles you own, and 6 donkeys. Place the church tile in the center of the table with the side up matching the number of players. In this case, we'll use the 3 to 4 player side. Do this for the market as well. Find the other tiles marked with the table icon, the town hall, woodcutter, farm, and quarry, and place those onto the table. For your first game, it's recommended to connect the tiles as pictured here, but in future games, you can connect them however you like, as long as the road segments connect directly to the church tile. For a 3 to 4 player game, you'll begin the game with 1 portion of the church already constructed. In a 2 player game, you'll start with 2 portions constructed. Place a villager and a donkey for each player on the church tile. For each of the producer tiles, the farm, quarry, and woodcutter, place 2 of the indicated raw goods into the spaces on those tiles. Sort the market tiles into 3 piles based on the number on the back of the tile. Depending on your player count, remove the indicated number of tiles from level 2 and 3. Then stack the 2s onto the 3s and the 1s on top of the 2s and place the first 3 tiles out into the market. Place all the tiles with this icon into the bag. Place the scoreboard on the table and tokens for each player nearby. Now draw 4 tiles from the bag and place them in the spaces above the scoreboard. The remaining tiles are sorted by type, and when specific tiles are constructed, these will be added to the bag during gameplay. Give the first player marker to a random player and 3 gold coins to all players. With 4 players, the last 2 players will receive 1 additional gold. In a 2 or 3 player game, only the last player will receive an extra gold. Place the green milestone and red award tokens on the table, visible for all players. The green milestone tokens will be rewarded throughout the game to the first person to build a refinery of each type and the first person to build a bridge or path. The red award tokens are awarded at the end of the game for the most church deliveries, second most church deliveries, most landmark buildings, and the most sales at the market. Before I explain how a turn works, there are a few key concepts you need to understand. The first is the shared nature of roads and material. Raw resources and refined goods on the board can be used by any player regardless of the color of the refined good. For example, this milk generated by the green player can be used at the market by the blue player to sell for this tile here. Roads can be used by any player regardless of who built them. Here the blue player can reach the barn from the church because of the path constructed by the red player. The second thing to wrap your head around is how material is transported. Performing various actions will require you to deliver different resources and refined goods to the location where your villager is taking the action. Material can freely move to an adjacent tile directly connected by a road, either pictured on the tile or constructed by a player. To move across additional tiles, that tile must contain a donkey of that player's color. The easiest way I've found to think about this is that between the location of the worker and the location of the resource, all tiles in between must have a donkey of that player's color. So here, if I was trying to deliver 3 milk and bricks, I have 2 bricks, there's a donkey in between on this tile, can deliver those to my worker, and then this milk has a donkey here and a donkey here to deliver to the worker here. To start your turn, I suggest standing up all your villagers, and then you can lay them down as you take actions. There are two things you'll do on your turn in any order. These are move donkeys and activate villagers. You can move your donkeys before or after activating your villagers. When you have multiple villagers, you can activate some villagers, move all your donkeys, and then activate the remaining villagers. However, you can never move donkeys, activate villagers, and then move other donkeys and activate more villagers. Moving donkeys can only be done once per turn. Villagers can move any number of tiles along a road to take an action, but donkeys are slow and can only move one tile at a time. When you choose to move your donkeys, you can move each donkey to one adjacent tile connected by a road. Workers can be used to activate a building tile, construct a building tile in an adjacent empty space, or build a road to an adjacent tile. To activate a building, move a villager to any tile connected to by roads. Each building works a little differently. Here are the main types you'll use. Producer buildings generate raw resources, and the worker generating them receives the reward in the green banner on that tile. It doesn't matter how many resources you generate when using this action, you only gain the reward one time. Tiles can be used to generate resources as long as there is at least one empty space. For example, here, the woodcutter has all 3 spaces full and cannot be used. Tiles that come out later in the game, such as barn, have spaces that can contain any type of raw resource. The player generating the resources chooses what type they want to generate. Refineries convert raw resources into refined goods. To use these buildings, you must be able to deliver resources using the roads and, if necessary, donkeys to deliver those raw resources to your villagers on those tiles. This green worker is able to convert 1 wheat from the farm into flour at the flour mill. Since the blue player has the first herder milestone, when they convert the wheat from the farm at the dairy mill, they will produce high quality milk, indicated by the white side of the goods token. Players don't receive any rewards for generating these goods until they are consumed by themselves or other players. Regular goods receive the reward printed on the tile, whereas high quality goods receive double the reward printed on the tile. The player who generated the good always receives the reward regardless of which player consumes the good. When using refinery buildings such as these with 2 spaces for goods, players can generate either one or both using a single action as long as all the raw material can be supplied to this tile. When using the town hall building, you can take both actions listed on the tile using a single villager. You must first purchase a blueprint if able, and then you are able to hire workers. You cannot hire workers and then purchase a blueprint. To purchase a blueprint, players choose a tile in the market above the scoreboard and pay the cost by adding coins onto the tiles they're skipping over. Here, the stonemason costs 2 coins and they are placed on the 0 and 1 spot. After purchasing a tile, slide down the remaining tiles and fill in a new tile from the bag. Players can only have 3 blueprints in their personal supply. If they're already maxed out, they can't take this action. They can, however, still use the town hall just to hire workers. Then you can take as many hire worker actions as you can afford. Your first additional villager costs 5 coins, then 7, then 9, and a donkey always costs 3. So you can purchase a worker and a donkey, multiple donkeys, depending on how many coins you have. When purchasing a donkey from the town hall, you can place it on any tile that is accessible by road to the church. In this case, the market, or even the stonemason. New villagers are placed on the church tile lying down. Thus, they cannot be used for actions on the turn they're acquired. To use the market building, select one of the available sale tiles and transport all the required goods, such as 2 stone and 1 wheat, and then gain the rewards as well as taking the tile and keeping it in front of you for endgame scoring. If there are still sale tiles in the draw pile, refill the empty spaces on the market tile. There should always be 3 available when taking this action until the draw pile empties out. Each villager can only make 1 sale at the market per turn, so if you want to fulfill 2 sales, it will require 2 workers. The market can also be used to purchase resources and refined goods for use on other tiles. You are not allowed to make a free market purchase to make a sale at the market. Making a free market purchase does not require the use of a villager. However, to consume it, you must still be able to transport that good from the market tile to the location that your villager is using that material. This symbol beside the cost is a reminder that it does not take a villager to make these purchases. To use the church building tile, you can complete a delivery by paying the cost listed in the red banner, either gold or the resource types listed, and gain the number of points listed in the green banner. Place a token of your player color to indicate that this delivery has been completed, and add one of the church segments of your choice. When the 3 starting producer buildings are completely full of resources, you can also send a worker to the church to beg for 1 gold coin. To construct a building, place your villager on a tile with empty spaces surrounding it where you can fit a new tile. Choose one of the blueprints from your personal supply, these are tiles previously acquired at the town hall, and connect it to the tile with your villager by at least 1 segment. Segments are separated by small clearings. Here, this side of the woodcutter has 2 segments. Buildings can be constructed forest to forest, mountain to mountain, and even mountain to forest. But road segments can only connect to other road segments. Transport the materials in the red banner to your villager and gain the points listed in the green banner. If you constructed a landmark building marked with a flag icon, place a flag of your color on the tile. The first player to construct a refinery for each good will take the matching milestone and have it for the remainder of the game. All goods of that type that they generate are high quality instead of regular quality. As well, all building tiles marked with that goods icon on the back of the tile are added to the bag. The last thing you can do with your worker is build a road. Roads can be built between forest to forest segments or mountain to mountain segments. Mountain to forest segments represent cliffs and can never have roads between them. A road between 2 forest segments costs 2 stone and is called a path. A road between 2 mountain segments costs 2 wood and is called a bridge. A reminder of these costs is listed on the side of the scoreboard. Note that you can't build roads between 2 tiles that are already directly connected, either by printed roads or player constructed roads. Landmark buildings will only score endgame points if connected to by a road unless they explicitly state no road required, such as the mountain range. The first player to construct a road will receive the planner milestone and will earn an extra point for all of their roads at the end of the game. Once you're out of workers to activate or no longer wish to activate any of them, your turn is over and it proceeds to the next player in clockwise order. When the last delivery to the church is made, the church has now been completely constructed and the game is over. Players will finish carrying out the current round and then proceed to endgame scoring. The first step in endgame scoring is to assign the awards. The most church deliveries will receive 5 points and the second most church deliveries will receive 3 points. In this case, red and green are tied, so you'll total up the points between both awards and split them evenly, rounding down. The merchant award is 4 points for the player who made the most sales at the market, so be sure to keep your market tokens to track who made the most sales. And the player with the most landmark buildings will receive this award for 4 points. Then players will look at all the landmark tiles with their player color and score points as indicated on the tile. Here the pond is not connected, so it does not score any points. However, you would have still received 2 points for constructing this tile. The small mountain range does not require a road connection, and it has 1, 2, 3 segments connected to mountains, so it will score 3 points. All players score 1 point for each of their roads, and the player with the planner milestone scores an additional point for each of their roads. Players will also score for their longest road, connected by only roads of their color and roads printed on the tiles. Their longest road must have at least 1 road of their color and cannot go through the church. You score 2 points per tile. Here the green player has 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles before it comes back to the church, and we'll score 8 points. Lastly, players add 1 point for every 3 gold. So here I'll score 2 for 8 gold, and the player with the most points wins the game. My thoughts on Hamlet are a bit conflicted because its strengths are also its weaknesses and vice versa. The game requires repeated plays to get into, but there's lots to explore on those repeated plays. The mechanisms are unique and interactive, but they sometimes cause these stalemate-like standoff situations, so that is a bit of a downside. The actions themselves are all pretty simple and easy to understand, but putting everything together, especially in your first play, is a bit confusing, so the publisher has provided a guide with some modifications to help your first play go a little bit smoother. The converse side to that is that there are a lot of different strategies to explore. It's a bit of a point salad, but you can focus in on a bunch of different stuff, either making church deliveries or sales at the market, or building roads, because if you're the first person to build a road, your roads are now worth double points, so you can build out a really long road and score a ton of points that way. Or you can focus on constructing buildings, scoring points for putting them out, and then scoring a lot of points from landmark buildings. The mechanisms are unique and interactive. It's kind of a pick up and deliver game, but you never pick up anything. You're never in possession of resources. You can only deliver them when you're able to use them. But the converse side of that is that sometimes you encounter these situations where it's not worth it to generate a resource or a refined good and leave it out on the board for your opponent to make use of. It's not an equal trade-off. When they consume your good, you might get a point or 2, but they might get 10 points. So it gets really defensive and is a little bit less fun when everyone plays that way. I was also a little bit disappointed in the donkey network mechanism. I really thought that that was going to be a cool puzzle you have to solve during the game, but it was never a limiting factor. In some games, I barely ever moved my donkeys. If I needed to, I could shift the entire network 1 space and it wasn't a problem. There was never a situation where I wanted to take an action, but it was going to take 2 turns to get my donkeys into position, so that was a bit of a letdown. Another small downside that was pointed out to me by other people I played with was how small some of the icons are. It can be a little bit difficult to read, so if you have glasses, that is something to keep in mind. Now, I'm not a big solo gamer. I focus more on small, puzzly card games and avoid the games that have a lot of setup and a lot of upkeep to manage an AI, but I found that Hamlet's solo mode was very manageable. It's relatively simple to track what it does, and all of its actions are pretty straightforward, with the exception of placing a building tile. That was a little bit confusing. The explanation in the rulebook is rather wordy, but when it comes down to it, you just have to think like an opponent. You're not going to place it onto a road network of yours, which gives you 2 additional points, and you're not going to place it next to one of your landmarks, which may or may not give you some additional points. When it comes down to it, Hamlet is a good strategy game, but some of its downsides get me a little bit less excited about it, and it's a little more difficult to get players into it, so I'm not bringing it out to game night as often as I would have otherwise, but it'll still get played from time to time, and I've enjoyed it every time I play it. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more board game videos to come.